Hey everyone, and welcome to the return of EToH News. For those who don't know, this is the channel run by me, KamiCam506. I made a series called jtoh News back in 2021 and 2023, where I would cover the news about what's going on in EToH, within the game and the community. This formula is basically going to stay the exact same, just moving it onto a different channel, which I explained in my announcement video. For those that are new here and not sure how the series works yet, basically I'll just cover the news into two separate categories, game news and community news. Game news will be covering any information about the new game, such as new updates, areas, tower revamps, etc. Community news will be talking about stuff that's happened in the EToH community, such as new hardest tower completions, new towers being made, and maybe even a bit of controversy thrown in there. Without further ado, let's get started with the game news. The first and biggest story of the month is the final part of the Christmas event coming out, that being the boss for the event. Before we get started though, there are spoilers ahead of the event, and this is like a day from when this video is being released, so I'm not even sure if it's worth pointing out. Anyways, the new boss, known as the Arctic Weather Machine 3000, was released. This boss is quite short but pretty high quality and fun. How this boss works is that after beating the 4 main towers, you would head over to the conductor and take the train over to the Weather Machine's cavern. After shooting an arrow at the boss's screen, the fight will begin. You're given a sword that you can charge to shoot an arc, and a bow with limited arrows which can be refilled with these boxes around the train. This boss has quite a few attacks, but despite that, the main consensus is that this boss is way too easy, and it can be easily beaten if you just ignore one of the minions and drawers and just target the boss. The boss does get a bit more difficult towards the end, but it feels a little too late since the boss only has like 500 HP by this point. Overall, the boss is quality and fun, but it feels a bit too easy and a bit too short. Also, soon after the release, the velocity of the bow was increased to make it travel to the boss easier. That's all that has to be said though, let's move on to the next story. On January 24th, the Zone 1 subrealm known as Steelspire Horizon finally released. In order to get to this area, first you had to head into Zone 1, then walk over to this boat over here and take it to this miniature oil rig. Once you arrive, you gotta climb up some steps and then take the helicopter over to the long-awaited Steelspire Horizon. As of writing, I haven't played the area too much, but personally, I feel some of the towers are a bit too long and drag on for a while. The general opinion of this area is quite divided, since there are some optimization issues with the area making people not really enjoy it. However, others are saying the towers are really fun and the whole area is good, which is always great to hear. I think the optimization problems will hopefully be fixed later on, which should hopefully make the area run better for people on lower end devices. That's all I have to say for this area. However, we didn't just get one area this month, we actually got a second one. That being... a brand new area has released at the Windswept Peak known as the Summit of Memories. The Summit of Memories is basically a huge classic tower replay. Almost every classic tower is available here, including SCs like Thanos Tower and the legendary TODC Classic version. As buns as some of these towers are, I think it's great to see that the towers are replayable again. There's a lot of towers in here that I love for different reasons. For example, TODCC is a super fun tower to run through since it's like 3 minutes long. There's also a new tower rush in here as per usual, with as of now 20 towers / citadels in there. More towers may also be added in the future since tower revamps are still being made / finished. However, nothing is quite confirmed for this area yet. Another thing before finishing up that this lobby is absolutely insane. The design is as usual absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad that finding the towers is a lot more simplified, since they are all just in these tunnels right in the middle of the lobby, or you just go up the stairs to find the citadels and SCs. Finally, there's a graveyard at the back of the map, which actually placed down flowers for all the towers that have been revamped. That's a very cool touch in my opinion. That's all I have to say about Summit of Memories though. It's time to reveal the towers for a new upcoming area. The Zone 5B subrealm, known as the Dark Side of the Moon or Zone 5B, got its tower slots revealed. The difficulty slots were revealed back in August of 2025, being 2 hards, 1 difficult, 3 challengings, 3 intensives, 4 remorselesses, an insane and a terrifying. On the 10th of January, all of the new towers for the area were revealed. So start off, the beginner towers for the area were Tower of Faulty Cityscapes, Tower of Unknown Mysteries, and Tower of Quaint Quadrant. Next is the intermediate towers. We have Tower of Xenocrystically Yonderous Zaniness, Tower of Viridian Dichotomy, and Tower of Transfigurative Zenith. For the advanced towers, there is Tower of Blossoming Nightfall, Tower of Kiarotayo, and Tower of Incoming Danger. And for the psychologically unsafe towers, we have 4 to go through. Tower of Questions, Tower of Mind Games, Tower of Robot Encoding Software, and Tower of Misleading Passages. Finally, we have 2 more SCs to go through, those being Tower of Spin to Win and Tower of Dynamic Pulse. Huge congratulations to everyone that got their tower into the area. The community reception for most of these towers seemed to be quite positive, which is always great to see. Also, they thankfully only made this area 2 hours long, unlike the Steelspire Horizon one, which was 4 hours! A couple more things to go over though is that Tower of Quain Quadrant was originally revealed as just Tower of Quain, which was the original name. So it looks like there's going to be 2 TTC keys in the area, but now that's obviously not the case. This also means that every single letter acronym has now been taken throughout the whole game, not counting monthly acronyms and other acronyms. Finally, I just wanted to mention that it's cool finally seeing Tower of Robot encoding software get in. I don't know much about this tower, but I know it's been in development for a very long time, so seeing it in game must feel absolutely fantastic. Anyways, that's all I have to say for this section. It's time to move on to some more info about World 3. We got a big update about World 3 and what's happening with it. On the 14th of January, Gamma posted an announcement saying that Worlds 1 and 2 are nearly done besides the obelisks, and that the obelisk may not be done for another year or so. After that, he confirmed that World 3, known as Temporal Time Machine, was going to get its very first area this year. We had rings in World 1, zones in World 2, and then we're going to have eras for World 3, with the first one being called Jurassic Woodlands. The aim is for this area to be released in the 3rd quarter of the year between August and September. To any builders that want to create a tower for this area, I would probably get started now since the deadline for submissions is July 7th, 2026. However, this is at exactly midnight for me, so it'll probably be somewhere in July 6th, about 5 or 6 hours earlier for the Americans. Also, if you want to build a tower for this area, please read the extra notes about the building stuff. It's basically saying use the V6 kit, you can build towers assuming experienced players will play them, keep the tower shorter, and keep your frames simpler. We also have the slots revealed for the area. We're going to have a total of 18 towers in this area, with there being 2 easies, 2 mediums, 3 hards, 2 difficults, 2 challengings, 2 intenses, 2 remorselesses, an insane, an extreme, and finally a citadel. This is quite a big update. It's going to be very cool to see how people will be using the V6 kit for this area. This kit has a lot of stuff going on in it, so I'm hoping people won't make towers insanely overwhelming, especially for the first area. It's still exciting nonetheless though. Now it's time to move on to an update for Obelisks and Citadel of Biotech Genesis. If you don't know, there's a tab on the Trello called Developer Projects, which refers to certain towers such as the Obelisks and Citadel of Biotech Genesis. There have been a couple updates for these towers, so let's get started on it. For the obelisks in COBG, it was decided to make the progress that is being made throughout them to be hidden. It's not confirmed why this was done, but if I had to guess, it's because they wanted to keep it a surprise or because the community had been too annoying about it. These are just speculations though and aren't confirmed to be the reasons. COBG was also made private in order to be consistent with the other developer projects on the 25th, and soon after, Mario123456 also put out the following statement. I'm not going to read out the whole thing since it's kind of long, but basically what it's saying is that the reason for the long development is because the earlier floors were finished a long time ago and needed to be replaced in order to match the newer, higher quality floors. This does sound like a good thing on paper, but it could turn into an issue where once this is done, the later floors become outdated and it could just turn into a cycle where you have to keep constantly improving the floors. I'm hoping this isn't the case though and we could finally get the Citadel since we've been waiting for about 6 years now for it. Now let's move on to some new updates for Arcane area. Development progress for Arcane area has now picked up again. For those that are unaware, Arcane area is an old area. It was the first ever submarine released back in May of 2020, and since then it's become heavily outdated to modern standards. Back in November of last year, it was planned to update this area to slightly update some of the towers, and to give 4 of them a complete revamp. Now in January, progress on that update has begun. On January 15th, all of the towers receiving minor updates were completed, those being SOBT, SOAP, SOTC, SOME, SOMC, and TOIA. January 16th saw the terrain being done, and January 19th saw the exterior lobby being done as well. On January 24th, the revamp for Steeple of Ascending Sorcery was complete, and then on the 25th, the revamp for Steeple of Crystal Ascension was also complete. Both of the models were inserted into the area later on in the day. That's all there is to cover for this month though, however more will be happening in February, which we'll be talking about next month. Let's move on to some more overall updates for January. Now it's time to talk about all of the minor changes made this month in the Game Tweaks channel and a couple other things I found on the Trello and the Discord. Without further ado, let's get into it. On January 3rd, TOSET, TOCD, TOASH, TOMA, TOOA, SODC, SOMH, TOGR, TOUE, and TOHE were all fixed. On January 7th, the revamped TOH had a small overhaul in order to polish and nerf the tower slightly. Tower of Oblivion and the Tower of Oblivion secret ending were fixed on the 15th, and COHP was fixed on the 21st. Tower of Whisking It All got a small quality of life update requested by the creator on the 19th. The official OST videos for both Christmas 2025 and Zone 1 were uploaded on the 24th, with 2 more songs being previewed under the name Seabound and Triangle P. These were then later uploaded on the same day, around the same time Steelspire Horizon came out. This is because these 2 tracks are both lobby songs for that area. Softwalks for TOQR and TOSRT are fixed. The cosmetic for TOSRT called Speedster was added. The TOQR ending was rewritten again since it was broken previously, and the collision issues related to TOSRT's cosmetic were fixed. TOWE got a large QoL update, fixing a lot of different bugs and glitches, and finally, boost barrier scripts were replaced with new ones in order to make them work better. Hi, Editor Cami here. I forgot a couple things. First, I just wanted to say that the 400 tower badge was added for the people that have beaten 400 towers for some reason. And Halloween 2018, Christmas 2018, and Spring 2019 were converted into the rewrite. That's all. Enjoy the rest of the video. That's all of the game news finished now. It's time to move on to the community news. The man, the myth, the legend, possibly even the goat of obbying, Monster is a Block has been one of the most famous Unreals of all time. Sadistically terrifying, overachieving, neglectful arrangement facility reborn, or Stone R as everybody knows it as. This was a revamp of the legendary catastrophic tower Stone. This tower was first finished in April of 2022 and sat at the top of the hardest towers ever made, but somehow Monster is a Block was able to complete this monstrosity. In the middle of December, he decided to start streaming this tower after getting a PB of floor 6. From there on, he would consistently stream this tower, slowly making more progress throughout the weeks. On the 6th, he managed to make it to floor 8 and almost made it to floor 9, but failed the dropper going back up to the floor. On the 11th, he got a run up to floor 9, but unfortunately failed a difficult beat block timing with the insta-kill surrounding it. His final devastating fail was on the 15th, where he unfortunately failed floor 10 of the tower. Unlike the original version of Stone, floor 10 actually has gameplay, and the jump he failed was this trust jump here, where he needed to fall off and climb onto the 1-sub, he unfortunately misses and plummets to his death. There are only around 5 or so jumps left before the end, so this could be one of the most devastating fails of all time. But thankfully it didn't take much longer, as on January 19th, Block would make history and complete Stone R. Huge congratulations to him on this monumentous achievement, and it will later place at top 1. Anyways, let's move on to the release of the nominees for the next EToH Awards. The nominees for the EToH Awards have been revealed. At the end of December of last year, after the long-awaited jtoh Awards 2024 released, EToH Awards 2025 got announced, and both the forums for nominees and applying for a par had opened up. After all the entries were sifted through, the nominees video was released on the 24th. This year there were 17 different nominees: Best Gameplay Design and Creativity, Best Implementation of Music, Best Non-SC and SC, Best Whitelisted Tower, Best Revamp Tower, Best Area/Event, Best Content Creator, Up and Coming Content Creator, Video, Streamer and Stream, Best Builder, Best Fan Game, and Best Obbyist. If you want to see what the nominees were for each of these sections, feel free to check out PyJupiter's video going through all of them. I'll leave it in the description and the pinned comment. The form to vote for each category will also be in the description. Hi, it's me again. The forms will not be in the description because the forms are now closed and I took way too long to get this video out. Anyways, let's move on to a revamp as one of the most controversial towers of all time finally being submitted. Tower of Inception is one of the most hated towers of all time for many different reasons. This all accumulated to an official revamp of the tower being submitted to EToH this month. Back in 2021, Itnear attempted the revamp TOI, and unfortunately he only made it about halfway through before it being scrapped due to poor reception. However, in November of last year, he gave it another shot and actually finished it this time. After a building process of a couple months, it was fully completed and submitted to the game on the 12th. In the submission, he said that the old TOI was very low quality and only made in about 2 or 3 days, and wasn't subject to any curation before release. The gameplay was horrible, and he even got death threats from it, which, like, come on guys, it's just a tower, it's not that deep. Since towers could not be requested to be removed now, he decided to build the revamp, and the revamp only includes client objects available in Ring 4 and just expands on them. As of now, it has not been reviewed. Hey guys, it's me again. So since I'm so late to this tower actually did get reviewed on February 13th, so it only took around January 12th, so about a month, so I was expecting a lot longer if I'm being honest. But yeah, it got reviewed and it failed, like, I wouldn't say badly, but yeah, it failed review. We'll go over more why in the next month's news, but basically it failed. and kind of the main reasons were the complexity was a bit overboard, the punishment system was flawed, and the COs were odd, unpolished, and lackluster. We'll go over more of this in the February news, like I said earlier, but yeah, alright, that's it. Time to move on to the next story.
Bro, I was against Camicam. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, the competition was not tough. Hi Camicam, by the way. Thank you for putting us into the EToH news for whatever this month that this video releases in. You can put this in the video if you see this.
Yeah, I remember. Off topic, but like I remember he like asked us when this episode was going to release so he could add it.
Yeah, he just really wanted to put it in, which honestly, I mean, yeah, it's like a
W
I guess it makes sense. Free
get
promo, W guy.
Fuck, my bad. Shit, I gotta get back on this real quick. Hold on. The Lithuanian duo known as Skerthix and the Death Eagle have officially reached Unksanus and have started a podcast called The EToH Show. This is basically a podcast where Eagle and Skerthix will be talking to each other and getting on certain guests to talk about whatever. The name is based off of an ancient podcast Skerthix used to do called The Roblox Show, which lasted a whopping 4 episodes. I think this is a pretty cool concept, and while I've had this idea before, I never got around to it, and personally, I think these guys will probably do a better job than me at it. Currently, the first episode isn't out yet, but it's almost finished in production, and this happened to them, which means it'll be delayed a bit more. That's all there really is to comment on, though. Now, before we get into the next story, I just want to say that this next story will have mature themes such as and so if you're not comfortable with that, please skip to this timestamp to head over to the next story. It's only January, and we already have our first person of the year exposed. Kyle G250, or previously known as Kyle the Gamer 25, was an EToH and GD YouTuber / streamer. They've been playing the game for many years, dating all the way back to 2019, and while I never talked to the guy, I had known of him since I remember seeing him in the jtoh leaderboards back then. However, on the 19th of this month, an exposal document was made on him for possibly sexual coercion, manipulation, possibly even CS, as well as racism. Before we get started on this document, do not go over and harass anyone in this document, including Kyle. Doing this will just make the situation a whole lot worse than it needs to be. According to this document, Kyle has had multiple different victims, one of which was 16 to 17 years of age while he was 18, and the second one being 13 or 14 while he was 17, close to 18. The first victim, dubbed Carmen, was prone to inappropriate messages such as this one, being suicide baited for having to cut off contact and being peer pressured by him to have sex with him. The second victim, dubbed Mark, reached out to Kyle after a breakup between Kyle and someone else. This then turned into suggestive stuff at some point, which Mark was obviously uncomfortable with. He then grew tired and weirded out by Kyle, so they both talked to each other, and Kyle apologized. Kyle then said in a group chat years later that he wanted to repeat what he was doing with Mark, but he obviously refused. Finally, there is some evidence with Kyle being racist. There is this message which, although seems to be quite old, is said by Karma that he did do some racist stuff around her when they were talking, which happened sometime in 2025. If you want to see more evidence of this document, the doc will be linked in the description. To Kyle, if you're watching this video, please get off the internet and get some help. Even though this guy isn't the most prominent figure in the community, and some of you guys may not have heard of him, I still feel it's necessary to make this video. And also, it was encouraged in the document to make videos on it in order to spread awareness about this guy. 2 days after the document's release, Kyle responded to it by making people aware of it and saying that he would be stepping back from making videos and interacting with communities in order for him to not endanger others. He also said that he would be seeking therapy. That's everything I have to say for this section. Let's move on to something a bit more positive now. TheObbyRay was a top player who was known for being some pretty difficult horrific towers, such as Tower of THJE Wall, Tower of Champions Road back in May 2021, which might as well be horrific, and he was also known for verifying Tower of Lucas Penteado, which is a low horrific which is pretty incredible from May of 2023. After he verified that tower though, he would go ghost mode and not upload again until this month, where he finally uploaded a new top 1 tower, Tower of Getting into Harvard. That joke was so ass, I'm so sorry. He explains in the video that he stopped playing obbies in order to focus on school and that he didn't have time to play obbies at all. After this, he shows his reaction to getting into Harvard, which is absolutely amazing.
Okay. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Once again, huge congratulations to TheObbyRay for making it into Harvard. Absolutely incredible to see someone's hard work pay off and getting into such a prestigious school like Harvard. Let's move on to the changelog for the top towers this month. How this section is going to work is that I'll be talking about all of the changes that have happened to all of the different lists in the top towers that are sent in the changelog channel. I'll be doing this in date order, so starting with the 1st and ending with the 31st. Let's get right into it. Tower of Absolutely Brutal Failures, Steeple of Coconut, Tower of Therese Persecution, Tower of Yeah, it's pretty empty entirely, Steeple of Wallhop Density, and Tower of Precise Turns were all placed on the 60 FPS list at 62, 52, 33, 53, 57, and 85. Tower of Weirdcore was moved down to 44, Tower of John Cudingly, I don't know how to say that, was verified on the controller list and placed at 10, Tower of the Floor was moved down to 35, Tower of Cruel Punishment was moved down to 105, and it was decided to put the tower from peak kata to high peak kata due to FPS changes making the tower easier to beat. Tower of Jabberwock Jacket was verified on controller and placed at top 1, Tower of Time Bond and Fury was moved up to Horrific and placed at 96, Tower of Isopropyl X was verified and placed at number 31 on the mobile list, Sand Steeple was moved up to 43, Tower of the Horizontal Wall was verified and placed at 58, Tower of the Roof's Peak was moved up to 30, Tower of Headquarters was verified and placed at 18, Tower of Cataclysmic Layers was verified and placed at 82 on the 60 FPS list, Steeple of Wallhop Density was removed from every list due to having too many glitches, Tower of Quarter Europe was moved up to 10 and was reverted soon after, Tower of Exodus Obscurity was verified and placed at 7 on the controller list, Very Tall Neat was verified and placed at 26 on the mobile list, and 56 on the 60 FPS list, Tower of Time Bond and Fury was verified and placed at 10 on the mobile list, Tower of Computer Crippled was moved up to 12, Citadel of the Final Destination was moved up to 13, Tower of Futai Perusal was moved up to 14 on the 60 list, Tower of Quarter Europe was moved up to 11, TOFP was also moved down to 6 on the mobile list, Tower of Outer Spatial Facilities was verified on controller and placed at 19, Tower of Jabberwock Jagger was verified on mobile and placed at 8 on the mobile list, Tower of Two-Sided Misery was verified and placed at 74 on the mobile list, Tower of Isopropyl X was verified and placed at 25 on the controller list, Tower of Linear Giant was moved down to 29 on the controller list, and last but certainly not least, Stone Reborn was placed at top 1, dethroning Tower of Monochromatic Haze and knocking out every single catastrophic tower out of the top 100. And that's the end of all of the news for January. It's time to move on to the outro. Thank you all for watching the first installment of EToH News. I'm planning on being consistent with this series and trying to upload this at least once a month. That being said though, I probably will need some help since there are over 15 different stories this month and keeping up with them was not easy. If you are interested in helping out and are active within the EToH community, feel free to contact me on Discord, that being KamiCam506. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next month. Goodbye!